Welcome to MediaMelanieTV. I'm Melanie, and today I'm back to talk about Dexter Resurrection on Paramount Plus with Showtime. Episode 4 is called Call Me Red, and this show is serving premium creep, and we got a full course meal of serial killer chaos. Not to mention, Dexter carries out his first kill as Red, kind of, even though he does reveal that he was in fact the Bay Harbor Butcher. And unfortunately, he took out one of my favorite guest stars. That's right, Lowell, who's played by Neil Patrick Harris, the tattoo killer. He's gone. And while we only got to see him for a little while, I am a tattoo person. I have 3 tattoos of my own. 2 of them are quite large. The disturbing nature of the fact that he collected the skins as his trophies and was waiting for his next victim to finish up the portrait of their dog in order for him to kill her and collect the tattoo. Wild. I was actually a little bit surprised that they went there so quickly without us getting to know this group a little bit better. And as Lowell said to Dexter, it's going to come off a little bit suspicious that the new guy all of a sudden shows up and now one of us is dead. Charlie also confirms to the group, Charlie of course played by Queen Uma Thurman, that Keith is dead because he betrayed the group. And now his murder weapon, the Negan-looking bat, is very much on display. And that does plant a little seed, I think, for these other killers. Like, hey, I better do my best to do what I'm supposed to be doing here. I mean, this buffet literally bites back. We also start to see some emotional cracks in Harrison's armor as things start to unfold. And even though he was able to talk himself out of looking guilty to the police, Claudette is not backing down. And now that we have Angel on the scene again as well, and this could tie in Dexter as well, because the Bay Harbor Butcher is obviously known to have cut up his victims into 9 pieces. And it's no coincidence that Harrison is now here and this murder happened in the same exact manner. That is no coincidence, and really it's got to be just a matter of time until they get to the bottom of it, or at least link up the fact that Harrison and or Dexter probably do have something to do with this. What's interesting though is Harrison doesn't even know at this point that Dexter is alive, and Angel didn't do anything to sway him of that opinion because he obviously wants to keep his cards close to the vest at this point. He doesn't want Harrison to know what he knows. Angel is a very smart detective, and I would not be surprised if eventually he's the one that takes Dexter down, or as I mentioned in my last video, Angel ends up on Dexter's table at some point. Really, it could go either way. Hopefully we get Angel for a very long time. I also loved Krysten Ritter in this episode. Is it possible we are going to get a little murder couple dynamic? That's something we've seen with Dexter before. He is no stranger to being involved with women who have some urges and dark sides like he does. But has he learned his lesson? Dexter seems like he is fanboying over some of these killers. And not only that, but some of the collectibles that Leon has on display, including that clown suit from John Wayne Gacy, the refrigerator from Jeffrey Dahmer. But the most surprising of all, the Bay Harbor Butcher's blood slides. The way he eyes them like it is the most prized possession on the entire planet. Dexter's very into this idea of meeting with the serial killers because really it's built in victims. But if he enjoys their company and companionship, will he actually continue to kill them? Will he kill Mia, who plays Lady Vengeance? Because she goes after sexual predators. So she may not have a code per se, but at least there is that feeling of vigilante justice, whereas the other ones don't share quite the same justification. And we saw that with Lowell, and Lowell was a very easy first victim as well. Dexter did not like him at all. It seems like the rest of the group didn't really like him either. But the way he was explaining this process for his latest victim, I think that got under Dexter's skin. And while it did escalate fast getting him on the table, I didn't mind it. I like how things are moving pretty fast so far this season. We haven't had a lot of filler or fluff, and was a little bit critical of the heavy Harrison presence early on, but I think they are finding a better balance of those 2 storylines with slightly more focus on Dexter, which, let's face it, is what we all came for. All right, before I get more into my review of Dexter Resurrection, Episode 4, Call Me Red, go ahead, like this video and subscribe to my channel. That way you won't miss any of my Dexter coverage or the other shows that I am covering all summer long and beyond. All right, let's get into a little bit of a recap, some of my highs and lows from this episode, and questions that we have moving forward. Is anybody else a little bit nervous about the fake thumbprint that Dexter was able to fashion? Good thing he saw that part of the invitation the thumbprint entry required just in the nick of time and was able to pull Red's arm out of the incinerator and access his thumbprint. But after the first two times when it was giving the red light, I'm like, oh no, this is not going to work. And Dexter at this point was not equipped to take Charlie out. Plus the heavy security of all of Leon's world, including the vault and his home in general, that could have spelled big trouble. So even though it was maybe a little bit silly and convenient, it worked because we had to get Dexter entry into this party. The fanboy aspect of this episode is very entertaining because we've got Dexter fanboying out over some of these collectibles, but Leon Prader, played by Peter Dinklage, is also a fanboy. He's not a killer himself. He's a voyeur. He likes to collect these dark things. And his primary job as a tech entrepreneur, billionaire, is bringing people together for a common cause, for a business. And he's sort of doing the same thing here with all of the serial killers. I too would be a little bit nervous about security and getting found out. But it seems like there is a certain built-in comfort level, and even Dexter is feeling that pretty early on. I've noticed that there are key parts when Harry's voice is not with Dexter, and I'm wondering if there's going to be a gradual transition to less Harry. Dexter starts moving more into his New York killing style. Doesn't he seem just a little bit too excited about all of this? He's supposed to be there for getting more victims and keeping to the code, but instead, I think he enjoys this, and dare I say that he may formulate more friendships with some of these other killers aside from Mia, Lady Vengeance. But I love the vibe between them. I loved seeing them running in New York City. She is just fantastic in this role. I thought they were actually going to be getting together, but fortunately, Harry advises Dexter, hey, you need to go and have this happy hour with Lowell instead of peering into Mia getting into the shower, which could have really gone in a whole nother dirty direction, if you know what I'm saying. That would have been far too soon, so I'm glad that they did not go there, at least yet. In addition to Leon Prader and Mia, Lady Vengeance, and Lowell, played by Neil Patrick Harris, we also meet Al, who comes off as this family man, this good guy. He's got a bunch of kids, showing off his children's photos, which is very disconnected from the image of being a serial killer to a family man. And he's played by Eric Stonestreet. I enjoyed his vibe. This actor actually reminds me a little bit of Jeff Holman, who plays Randy in Yellow Jackets. Every time I look at him, I don't know what it is, I just keep hearing Yellow Jackets lines in my head. And by the way, I will be covering Yellow Jackets season 4 when that does come out, so keep that on your radar if you like these dark shows on Paramount Plus with Showtime, which, if you're here watching, you do. And by the way, if you need another dark show to watch, The Institute on MGM Plus, Mary Louise Parker, adapted from a Stephen King novel, very dark, giving Stranger Things, highly recommend it, and I'm also covering it here on my channel. Another serial killer we meet is Gareth, played by David Dastmalchian, and let me say, we did not learn a whole lot about him, so I am hoping that there's a little bit more of a slow burn reveal, because we did learn quite a bit about Lowell, about Mia, and Al. Getting into a little bit more of the Harrison, I enjoyed that audio of the ticking watch throughout, which represents how probably fast his heart is beating and the guilt that he's feeling, and also maybe a bit of a metaphor as a ticking clock for time running out in terms of him getting arrested by the police. It's a really small thing, but it's done very well. And the watch is something that could be at the center of this investigation. Harrison has already told them that he did drop Ryan's watch off. In this episode, he went and picked it up. But are they going to find it strange that he still has the watch on him? Are they even going to ask him about it again? Either way, I love the watch involvement with the audio ticking. And poor Harrison, when he goes in for a kiss to his friend Elsa, who has been nothing but kind to him, and she rejects him, and the way he runs off, the poor guy. But also, I feel like he's just an emotional mess right now and probably isn't reading the cues very well because he's got a lot going on in his head right now. Elsa gets a lot of screen time as well, and I'm curious to know how her involvement will tie in with the Harrison storylines and if she will somehow get roped into the crime or maybe witness Harrison doing something that's not good and make her question her choice of alibying him in the first place. That confrontation between Angel and Harrison at the hotel, for a split second, I thought Harrison was gonna spew out everything he knows about his dad, but he knows better because he's also complicit with the crime that they both committed and were a part of in Iron Lake. Angel's already been to Iron Lake. Angel is now in New York. Angel has told Masuka and Quinn that he's got some burning loose end he needs to tie up. He did not say that it was Dexter. I'm hoping at some point that Masuka and Quinn end up coming up to assist him or maybe try to get a hold of him. They can't. They're worried and they track him to his last location. Either way, I just hope we get more Masuka and Quinn. Claudette is also hot on the trail and is not convinced that Harrison is innocent. And once Angel shows up and the meeting of the minds, the pieces are gonna start coming together even more. And I love the pairing of Claudette and Batista. Claudette is just such a fun female detective. I wrote an article once about my favorite 15 female TV detectives, and I've got to say, if this show was on the air at the time, I probably would have included Claudette on that list. In fact, I'm going to drop a link to that down in the episode description, so read it if you're interested. And speaking of Harrison, when he dials Claudette and seems to be realizing, you know what, I'd better come clean about some of this stuff, just in time, Dexter comes and grabs his shoulder. I actually thought that moment was going to come a little bit earlier during one of the other scenes, but I knew it was coming. I could tell. And now in the next episode, we're going to explore this reunion of Harrison and Dexter. The way Harrison's like, Dad? He's like seeing a literal ghost right now because he thought he killed Dexter, and Angel did not do any favors by letting Harrison know that Dexter was in fact still alive. So this boy is surprised. He's got a lot going on. How is this going to go? Is he going to let Dexter know what he did and perhaps get some advice as to how they can handle this moving forward? Is Dexter going to get roped into this crime because Angel knows Dexter's there? Claudette is not familiar with the Bay Harbor Butcher. She's going to be very familiar, though, very soon. And it's only a matter of time until Dexter enters her sphere because of what is happening with Harrison. And speaking of past characters from Dexter, I forgot to mention, along with Dexter's blood slides, the Trinity Killer's hammer was also in Leon Prader's vault. What a solid Easter egg, because we know that we are getting a Trinity Killer spinoff with John Lithgow at some point. So nice way to weave that in. This whole Dexterverse is really coming together nicely. I guess one of my big questions about this in general is, even though Red doesn't have a social media presence, people are not familiar with Ronald being this dark passenger. Is Dexter going to successfully be able to pose as him? Is there going to be something that will be a dead giveaway? I think it's going to have to do with the vegan of it all. They dropped the hint in the last episode that guest number 5 is vegan. And I'm also wondering if they are bringing him in because they got rid of Keith and they needed another slot to fill. But Dexter was smelling that meat like he wanted to take a large bite out of it, savor every single morsel. Unfortunately, if he's gonna play Ronald, he's gonna play vegan. At some point, will he be out to dinner with Lady Vengeance perhaps and accidentally orders a meat dish? And she's like, hey, what are you doing? But there is no reason why they would have introduced this vegan point in general if it was not going to be something important. So I'm calling it now. Dexter's going to give himself away as Dexter and the Bay Harbor Butcher because Red is vegan and Dexter is not. And I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up slipping up at some point. Dexter is very smart, good at covering his tracks, but he's not skilled at pretending to be vegan. The guy likes meat. So I think this plot point is going to be very interesting. And can we also talk about Al justifying his killing as self-care? He goes on these business trips, he gets rid of his release, and then he goes back to being a family man. The fact that a serial killer is calling this self-care is 100% ridiculous and unhinged, but also I kind of like it. And if I'm guessing who is going to be next on Dexter's list, probably going to be Al, who is the ponytail killer, which stems from his mom. Seems like all of these killers have some sort of parentage issue or some issue from growing up, similar to Mia having gone after sexual predators because of what happened to her little sister at the hands of her mother's boyfriend or stepdad. So next on the list, I'm calling it, I do think it's going to be the Rapunzel killer. Perhaps he's going to be going after his next ponytailed victim. And similar to Lowell, Dexter will be stalking him and is able to successfully get him on the table as well. But I also don't think we need to kill all of these serial killers within one season. Are they going to spread it out? Is Dexter going to come across another serial killer inadvertently and distract him from this group? Or is he just straight up going to go after all these people? I really can't see him going after Mia, Lady Vengeance at this point, not only because they have this connection and them on the run was just super cute. I mean, he almost got in the shower with her, let's not forget. So on top of the attraction and the fact that she has some sort of justification for killing, I see more potential for them teaming up than Dexter actually taking her out. But what do you guys think? Drop it in the comments. Back to the victim of this episode, Lowell. I loved seeing him on the kill table, but my favorite part about it all was Dexter cutting the cheek, getting the blood, and putting it back on the slide. Meanwhile, Lowell's like, oh, that's a pretty lame souvenir. Honestly, anything's going to be lame compared to a tattoo of something cut off of someone's body, which is plain, straight up disgusting. But it doesn't really matter what the trophy is. The fact that all serial killers do collect trophies is very fascinating. But seeing Dexter return to his OG ways, I'm just so excited about this. And another question, is he going to end up stealing his slides back the way he was eyeing them and he touched them? That vault seems pretty hard to penetrate, but will Dexter find a way to reclaim his original trophies as the Bay Harbor Butcher? I hope so. But as we know, he will never hide them in an air conditioner again. And in the past episode when Harry was like, been there, done that, when Dexter was eyeing the air conditioner, thinking that maybe that's where Red was hiding his trophies. So many callbacks to the original Dexter, but not too many. It's the perfect balance of putting us right back at home where we were back in these original Dexter days. And back to that conversation between Angel and Harrison. Harrison, at some point this season, is probably going to discover that Hannah is not his biological mother. I imagine Dexter will tell him the story about Rita because now Angel has planted these seeds within Harrison, like, is what I know even true? So maybe Harrison either looks into it or Dexter ends up coming clean because of the guilt that he's feeling of not being the father figure that Harrison needs. And maybe coming clean and getting that off of his conscience will be one step in the direction of trying to be this father figure like Harry is to him, or at least his conscience. Now, with Claudette recalibrating and Harrison almost calling her, and luckily it went to voicemail and Dexter stopped him, what is next? She is going to discover something, and now with the help of Angel, they're going to be on Harrison's tail and potentially Dexter's as well. Are they going to discover the serial killer meetup? Is Angel going to find Dexter and start stalking him and wonder why he's going to Leon Prater's? Will Angel end up taking down Leon Prater and this entire group of serial killers in the first place? Can anybody actually get into that vault? And again, the set design just, 10 out of 10. But if anybody ever discovered that museum of artifacts of some of the most notorious killers in the history of everything, he is going down. And by the way, I enjoyed that the pig farmer reference was in there. I actually looked it up because I wasn't sure if what Harry said was true, that there has been one other known meeting of serial killers in the world before. And yes, the pig farmer is actually a real serial killer and lived in Canada, who would feed his victims to his pigs. But I can't find any evidence of him actually meeting with other serial killers, even though there are some potential accomplices that were never implicated, but could have been involved in his crime. So if anybody else has any information on this, if it's actually historically true that there has been this other meeting of the murderous minds, definitely drop it in the comments and let me know. This is such a fascinating topic. This episode slayed with the tension, the nostalgia, and bringing together more of these characters, especially a duo who we've never really seen together, Angel and Claudette. I'm loving this emotional fallout from Harrison and very excited to see how the reunion between him and Dexter actually goes. Is Dexter going to continue to fanboy over this group of serial killers, or is he going to continue like he did with Lowell? What is the next gathering of these murderous minds going to hold in the first place? There's just such a strong sense of momentum, and I'm loving the callbacks to the past while also building these new layers in the Dexter verse as a whole. And just overall, from Lowell's death scene, I love seeing these bodies wrapped in the plastic and the blood gushing out in Dexter's release, to just the concept of these killers meeting at Leon Prader's and the slate of guest stars we get to see all at once. Not to mention the reveal of Dexter's blood slides, all of those other trophies, and a potential love interest in Mia, Lady Vengeance. Angel's subtle manipulation of Harrison is just so on point, and I'm really looking forward to the partnership between Angel and Claudette. This ticking watch, this simple metaphor of the guilt, also represents the ticking timeline for Harrison being discovered at some point. And what if he is discovered? Will Dexter take the blame for him and put himself behind bars? I also can't necessarily see that happening, but there's going to be a lot of little idiosyncrasies with the Harrison and Dexter of it all and how the culpability of these crimes goes down, because now Harrison and Dexter each have a body count here in New York. Not a lot of lows overall in this episode. I think the incinerator thing, yeah, it's a little bit convenient. Same with the thumbprint. But this episode had me captivated from the start. I was not looking at my phone at all, just waiting for what was next. And one of the most important questions, are we going to see a decline in Harry as Dexter's conscience as he adopts this new way of living and makes some new friends here in New York City? So many questions. Cannot wait for next week for episode 5. What did you guys think of this episode? Are you as keyed up as I am to get Michael C. Hall back on our screens in this quintessential killer role? I hope so. Let me know all of your thoughts and theories down in the comments. And again, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I've got a goal of being a full-time content creator, and I am so excited to get there. So I appreciate you being here. And I'm also covering some other shows, including the aforementioned Institute on MGM+, The Summer I Turned Pretty on Prime Video, and The Buccaneers on Apple TV+. So stick with me for all the TV talk this summer and beyond. I'll be back again very soon. Media Melanie, clicking off.